Hi, I'm really excited to tell you about Commonhold. What is it? Commonhold is a system of property ownership in England and Wales. It involves the indefinite freehold tenure of part of a multi-occupancy building, typically a flat, with shared ownership of and responsibility of common areas and services. This is invaluable for everyone who's looking at doing lease properties. Watch this video, you're gonna love it. All the best. Hi, Trevor Cutmore again on my channel. Thank you for coming. I have the pleasure of introducing a friend of mine, Stefania Maulucci.
Well said, Trevor.
Thank you. So we've been friends for a number of years. We first met, I think, when I was doing the Wimbledon Pin. Was that right?
That's right.
Many years ago when I was a pin host. Now, Steph, she's going to tell you what she does, but we're going to talk about leasehold properties. And this is really interesting because you're campaigning, aren't you?
I am.
So what do you do first? Let's qualify who you are, because otherwise, who are you talking about this? So let's say, so what do you do?
So I'm a solicitor. I first trained with one of the major law firms, international law firms in the city, in banking and finance law. And then I went on to specialise in property finance. And I worked for major lenders funding development, development, and there I started to enjoy property and property investment for myself, and I started to invest in property in buy-to-lets, and now I do small development. I still have my practicing certificate, but I don't work in a law firm anymore. I work in an investment bank in Canary Wharf.
Perfect. So look, let's just set the scene. A leasehold property, as I understand it, is basically whether it is, let's say, a house cut into 2 apartments, or it can be a tower block. That basically the freeholder owns the land that it sits on, but they create a lease for each property, no matter how that goes up, that the person basically buys that. So it might be, £100,000 or £1 million for a 99-year lease. And if you swap the word lease for rent, you're actually only renting that property for 99 years. And then if you don't renew it under a Section 42, you have to give it back to the freeholder. So there's a lot of money. So what people do is they build, and one of the large building companies are in trouble with the government because what they did is not only do you pay for the lease, but there's a thing called ground rent. Now, the ground rent is normally a token payment, £50, £100, but one of
peppercorn
rent
used to be.
That's it. So a very small amount. But one of the big building companies, I'm not going to say on here, but they got taken to court by the government because what they did, they said it was about £200 to start with, but it doubled every 10 years. Now, you don't need many years, so that goes 10, 20, 40, 80, 160. It'd be £3,200 a year. Peppercorn rent? I don't think so. So these are some of the scams that some of the major people are doing. So the interesting thing, talking to Steph about leases, you see that this is not a good thing, and you would like to see it changed. Just so, have I given a good definition?
You have. There's many problems with leasehold, but essentially the key point to remember is that leasehold is a long-term tenancy, and for the law, the freeholder is a landlord and the leaseholder is a tenant. So you can spend in London for a 2-bed flat 600,000, and you're still a tenant.
Yeah. Well, one of the properties I was trying to work on, even on an option deal, it was in Marylebone. And there is only 2.5 years left on the lease. So the freeholder wanted 2.6 million to give a 90-year extension. So let's talk, because you're saying, you're advocating, let's get rid of leases, and let's have this thing called a common lease. Now,
Commonhold.
Commonhold. So talk to me about that. How does that work?
So Commonhold is already existing in terms of we have laws around Commonhold. However, it never took off because a developer would be crazy to give up leasehold. Leasehold is a golden egg goose.
Absolutely.
Because not only you can sell when you build flats, you sell the flats as bricks and mortar price, although the purchaser is buying a long-term tenancy, but then you have the recurring income. Every year you can collect ground rent.
Yes.
And then with leasehold you can collect permission fees. So if the leaseholder in a flat wants to build an extension, a kitchen extension, or if the leaseholder of the top floor flat wants to build a loft conversion, they need to ask permission, and the permission comes with a development premium.
Yes.
So there's fees in that way, and now the modern leases are written in such a way as to really be a source of income on every corner for a freeholder. So even if you rent out the property, you could be giving money depending on how the lease is written. So
yes.
Please read the lease before committing to buy a leasehold flat, and employ the best lawyers who specialise in.
And can I just make a point? Because even the leases that you get and you look at, it's not out of your power to have that changed. You haven't got to accept it, have you?
You haven't got to accept exactly. So of course, but not after you've signed it.
No. So this is really key point. When you are taking over a leasehold property, if you look at the lease and read it, I mean, most people won't read it, but you really, really should. But if there's things in there that you don't agree with, there's nothing to stop you going back and saying, no, I'll have it, but I want this taken out, or I want this added in. So what would be one of the things that you would ask to be taken out?
It's a watch out for fees for when you rent out the property, fees for when you change a mortgage lender, permission fees. Watch out for ground rent. So that's really, so ground rent, you alluded to the fact that it can double. It can be it's a source of income. Every year you have to pay. Some unsuspecting uninitiated buyers, they think, well, what's £100 in the grand scheme? What's 200? What's 300? But the price of the ground rent is not just an annual income for the freeholder. They will also set the price for when you want to extend the lease.
Absolutely. So it's using the calculation, isn't it?
It's a calculation, so it will affect the reversionary interest of the freeholder. So really watch out, especially if you're already buying a lease that is below 90 years. You need to start worrying, because you really don't want your lease to be below 80 years.
Yeah.
And when you're buying something that is around the 90 years mark, you need to start thinking, well, I'm going to have to extend the lease. And if the ground rent is high, it's going to cost you more.
So look, majority, some leases can be 999, some 125, but majority they're set at 99 years. If I'm building flats, I do it 99 years. Why? Because within the next 20 years I've got another quite a large payout, because what happens, the leaseholder will go to the freeholder and serve a Section 42 notice, which gives a statutory 90 years extension. But the leaseholder has to say to the freeholder, right, you're going to not only going to pay all my legal fees, you're going to also pay all of the survey fees, plus there's going to be a premium for that 90 years. Now, as I said, the one in London, 2.6 million. Now, it's all relative, but the ground rent money comes into the calculation. So if that is in the original lease, again, look at it, and when does it go up? How does it go up? If it doubles every 10 years, it could be terrible. So you really need to be careful with that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this Commonhold.
It's a Commonhold. So it never took off because it wasn't mandatory. So
how does it work?
So the Commonhold, in very simple words, it confers fractional ownership of the property. So you're no longer a tenant. You own your flat, but also together with the other flat owners, you own the land, the roof, the structure, the building. So you are a real owner of your home, and that's really how the majority of the world operates. In America, you may be familiar with the term condominium, condos. So you are in America, you are a real owner, or you can buy a lease, meaning you rent a property. And in Europe as well, and in Australia, they have a strata ownership.
Right.
So Commonhold. I need to add, in Scotland, leasehold properties don't exist anymore, or if they still exist, they're legacy. So leasehold is no longer available.
Right.
And this is what really I'm part of the National Leasehold Campaign group. You can join that on Facebook if you have any, if you already own leasehold properties and you've got issues, or if you're thinking about buying a leasehold property but you don't know, you're unsure because of all these pitfalls. You can really get a lot of advice there. So we are really pushing for Commonhold to replace leasehold tenure. There has been some good progress made, but we're not there yet.
Right.
But
Okay.
Essentially,
So normally, sometimes we do get a house which is split into flats, and then what they do is they sell them, but it's share of the freehold. So is Commonhold very similar to that?
No.
Okay.
Because a share of freehold is obviously much better than leasehold. But from a legal perspective, you're still are a leaseholder of your flat. The difference is that together with the other flat owners, you own the freehold title.
Perfect.
And this is share of freehold, but you still have that lease. It's obviously until Commonhold replaces leasehold tenure. It's much more advisable to buy a share of freehold. With that, you can together with the other owners, you can at least appoint your managing agent, and you can hire and fire your management company. They really work for you as opposed to for the freeholder, because with the freeholder appointing the management agent, often that can be a company owned by the freeholder.
And more profits.
More profit, and they
less service.
They can add commission to for insurance. And in many cases, they can add up to 300% of the real cost of insurance.
Wow.
It's happened to a property that I own. And various other commissions on work done to the property. And even with the major work, it's called Section 20, you really don't know what's happening. So you really don't have control. And
so I can see that there's a problem. The initial problem, I can see the benefits. We'll talk about the benefits in a minute, because or the things that I've got coming up. But with hundreds of thousands of leasehold properties being out there, how would it be possible to change some of those, which a lot of the freeholders are rubbing their hands because they're going to get the Section 42? They're waiting for that to come in because they know it's a payday. How would you ever, with all those leaseholds, how could you ever get those to changed over to Commonhold? Because that's a very difficult one. Yeah,
to Commonhold. So Commonhold, you really need to wait for the government to reform and to see whether they are willing to change current leases, or whether they will only apply to new properties. But let me just pause for a moment and get back to the point you were making about Section 42. Another pitfall that I really urge you to be careful about is when you do a lease extension, you must use a Section 42, because I know of cases where a leaseholder has actually been contacted by the freeholder to say, your lease is coming down to below 80. Would you like to extend? I can offer you this price. You don't have to go through solicitors, pay all these fees. What I'll do, I'll get it back up to 99.
Oh, really?
So I'll get it. I'll get up to. Let's say the lease is 80 years. I'll get it back up to 99. You pay me X, and the ground rent. Let's just adjust it to inflation, and we add another £100, and the unsuspecting. Leaseholder thinks the freeholder is friendly. They don't really want to appoint solicitors. And they just fall for the trap. And really, by doing that, they thrashed out the value of the leasehold flat. That's it. Once they've signed, it's very then difficult to prove that you didn't understand. And And so please, the law protects you. Section 42 allows you to add 90 years to the terms. If it's 80, you add a further 9.
Yeah.
And the ground rent goes down to peppercorn, to zero.
Yeah.
So really, whilst the freeholder gets some money, you know, the golden goose egg.
Can it really go down to zero? I thought it had to be £1.
It's peppercorn, so it's but to all intents and purposes, it's you know it may have been 100, and now by using Section 42, you got rid of that, and you've actually improved. So you add to Trevor's point, if you find these properties, you can add a lot of value because they may have some ground rent, short leases, and by using the right solicitor, doing the process, understand what you're doing, you improve the property. You add the long lease, so you can 80 plus 90 can be.
Very good.
Very good, and then peppercorn, and that is very attractive to someone.
So look, the real benefit, and as you know, I'm starting to do more and more development. So where I build not houses, but where I build apartments. If I now start to, instead of doing a management company and doing a nice lease on it for 99 years, you're saying that if I come in with a Commonhold and be a front flame bearer for it, then that could really not just it can give me a premium.
It can give you a premium
on what I can sell it for.
That's right. So there's one builder. Their name is Hopton. You can Google them. They are pioneering with that, and they are selling at a premium with a lot of success. You have to make your message very clear, and say we're not selling tenancies. I'm selling you your real home ownership. You're buying the land. You are participating in land ownership here. So that in an area where there's many other flats being built under the Help to Buy, with all these, with ground rent, and they can set you apart, especially if you're a small developer selling that really and you're up against the major house builder. With that message and that proposition, you can really command a premium, and
fantastic.
And for me, it really is the right thing. You can start changing.
Do you think your campaign can actually start to get? Do you see that as probably stage one to make sure that all new flats could start to become Commonhold?
The law where we are at is the law commission is trying to is reviewing the existing law on Commonhold and see if it can be improved, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of lobbying to try and resist the Commonhold. So there's all these arguments about but what about complex? And you hear them complex blocks. I mean, what's complex? They say, but it's mixed use. It's mixed use. So at present, if you buy a flat in a mixed use block, mixed use for the law is where the commercial area is above 25% of the building, you have no right to ever enfranchise to buy the freehold, and the freehold lobbyists want to keep that so that Commonhold is barred for these mixed use because they claim they're complex. So where we're at the moment, Commonhold is under review. It will happen. It's a matter of when, but there's still that exclusion for the mixed use. But what we're going to see as an immediate change will be the ground. The government has announced that for new leases, the ground rent will be zero.
Perfect.
Peppercorn. So there's a lot of investors. There's investors who own many freehold titles because it creates an annuity. So they sit on these freehold titles, and they are nervous because they don't know what the government because that will obviously.
For people, so really, we'll wrap up in a minute, but for people who live in a block, let's say 6 or 8 apartments, and they're all friends, there is an opportunity for, what is the percentage for somebody to club together to force the sale.
Of course, that's right.
You know, you have the
And
right
it's,
to buy. They can. The freeholder cannot resist. But what is the percentage?
So you need at least 50%.
At least 50%
Yeah.
owners get together, and they can They can now go to the freeholder and say, we want to buy the freeholds, and even that 50% can own it for the whole block, and then they can put their management team in and everything else. And that's a very powerful place to be. So look, Steph, if people want to contact you,
Sure. So you can find me on Facebook, Stefania Maulucci, or stefania.maulucci@gmail.com. So my surname is Maulucci.
okay. And you said it. The pronunciation was very good. I have to compliment. Listen, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that. I did, because I learned a lot. So, Steph, thank you so much for that. And any final words?
Final word, beware of leasehold property. Read the lease, especially if you want to do development or something like serviced accommodation. Be very careful that you're allowed to do that. So if you want to do service, go for freehold or share a freehold. Just watch out. There are opportunities, but watch out. And if you are a developer, please sell with Commonhold, and you'll get a premium. It will make a lot of sense.
Super. I'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.